guys. A lot of the fun of making bows for me is seeing just what will make a bow. This is about the only stave I have right now that I feel is dry enough to start maybe working on a little stick bow. And even by stick bow standards, this probably is not the best example. This is a really small diameter piece of elm that I cut down probably 4 or 5 months ago. And I've never worked elm. I hear it makes a pretty nice bow, so I'm kind of curious. Like I said, this is really not a really good example. You can see how narrow this is, which means the back of this is going to have a really high crown. It's going to be under a lot of stress, and you never know what you never know what to expect when you make bows, and that's, to me, it's part of the fun. And I'd rather try to take an ugly piece and see if it'll shoot than a perfect piece that I know will probably work out. So for me, it's all about the challenge and the learning experience. And so I'm going to start working this stave. I brought some stone tools out in my tool bag, and I don't know how far I'll get today, but it'll probably be a fairly long video because I'm going to try to work this from start to finish and talk a little bit on the way. I'm by no means a bowyer, but I like trying to make bows, and I have a lot of fun doing it. So first thing is I gotta get a fire because it's freezing out here, and I'm gonna try some of Chris's tools here that he sent me. Alright, Chris, you sent me some really nice hand drills here, and I really want to try them out. You said in this little bundle of hand drills here there's tick seed and goldenrod, and I have to assume that this smaller one is goldenrod, so I can't imagine goldenrod that big. So I'm just guessing here. I want to try it out, and this is trumpet vine that you sent me. I'm going to try drilling into that. I might try using that hole. There's not a whole lot left in it, but we'll see. The trick is to get on some level ground here. That serves to be the hard part. Now I've been trying some of the floating stuff, but I don't really feel like I can get enough downward pressure and friction yet. You can see hopefully the camera's picking this up. I've been working on this the last couple nights, and I can go back up the spindle doing it, but you know, that's not really I don't feel like I'm doing anything there doing that. So I'm just going to try warming this thing up. Get some dust in there. I'll make a couple passes. I'm probably not centered in that camera. I'm looking. I'm too comfortable cheating and going straight down into it. I think I ran out of notch there. I drilled through it. Yep. So it was starting to get pretty hot. Yep, try again. I have to get another hole in there. Well, I burnt through. That looked like I was going to do the trick. But I burnt through the hole. There wasn't much left on it, so I have to get another hole here. Which, let's see. Let me just go on this opposite side. This looks like some really good stuff. And that little preliminary drilling there is really going to work nicely. Can't thank you enough, man. Might not be working on any bows today if I don't get a fire going. Alright, so I'm going to cut this in and I'll be back with you. Alright. Finished with that. And I'm going to get a little hole here so I can seat the drill. Glad it's not like super cold out here because I'd be in trouble. Yeah, I think I need a little bearing hole. That should be fun. Probably. Okay, so got a little hole started there. And I just gotta cut my notch into that a little bit deeper. Man, this is some really good stuff, Chris. That was, tell you what, if that notch had been cut, I was already starting to go. Alright, so it's about a third of the way in there, I guess. And hopefully this one's for real. Now trying your floating technique, but get it warmed up. Get a little dust established. I don't know if I'm really doing the floating. Get some dust in there. Whew! I think I got a call. Kind of popped off my thing. I'll save it here somehow. Oh boy, that could be a bummer. Oh boy. I'll try it with little bits on this one. We have fire. Chris, it's like the best tinder ever, man. Thanks so much. Ow, ow. Just start building this up. Man, Chris, this is some really top-notch stuff you gave me, man. It's totally spoiled, man. Thanks so much. We got a fire, so we can start working on a bow. And I'll be back with you. Alright guys, so like I said, I'm no one to take lessons from. I'm just going to show you what's going through my mind as I start, sizing this thing up, looking where to get started. This didn't really check much on the end where I had cut it. I usually hang these in the rafters of a garage or shed this season. And I started peeling some of the bark off a couple weeks ago to see how hard it was going to be, and now it's gotten really hard. I'm going to have to scrape it off with something. But basically what I'm doing is I'm letting this stave fall into my hand, and it'll naturally kind of lay so there's a concave or a bow to the bow, and that tells me where my back is going to be, in that concaved area. So if it was this way, the bow would already be pre-bent, and I don't like that. You want to reflex if you can. So the stave will naturally fall in my hand. So this is going to be the back of my bow, where the bow naturally, or the stave naturally reflexes. I'm thinking. That's not taking into account any major knots. Can't always go by that, but that's just what I'm thinking initially. There's a big knot right here, but if I plan this right, I could put that about in my handle area and probably get away with it. So having said that, they'll probably leave me with a short bow, and I don't know, I probably won't be hunting with this bow, but we'll see how long it goes. If I cut it off at this knot here, that leaves me with a bow that comes to about upper chest. And I measured up to my collarbone. That measures up to 56 inches, and that's about where I'd like a bow, ideally. I mean, that's going by a 28-inch draw under ideal circumstances. I don't have a 28-inch draw. I have like a 25.5, 26 at the most. So, I mean, this bow, we'll see how long it goes after I cut it, but that's just initially what I'm looking for. The bow naturally falls, so the concave area is right here. I'm probably going to make that my back. I'll probably have to cut this bow a little short because there's a major knot right there in the middle of it. So I'm always also looking at too. I'm not just seeing how the bow lays. I mean, I'm matching up the ends. I want to see, this bow is pretty straight. If you look from this end all the way down, it's pretty straight. So your tips will pretty much line up. You know, if I had the bow this way, you could see how as you go down the bow, it curves out, and you have a snaky bow, and that tips when it line up. So this bow just happens to line up, so there's a natural reflex, should be my back, and the tips are already in line. So that's real important too. So that's something else I'm looking for, I forgot to mention. But yeah, so I have a knot here. I could place that about handle, and that would leave this tip probably right about at where this knot is. So if I cut off at this knot, you know, I'll probably be left with a 50-inch bow, you know, and a shorter draw because, you know, the handle's not bending either. So see if I could sneak 23 inches out of this draw, out of this bow. And of course, that's all under ideal circumstances, if this thing's bending perfectly and everything. But you know what? It's all part of the fun, all part of the learning process. So I'll get started and see where it takes us. Alright, the tool bag, I got a little adze axe type tool here. Not very sharp. Half thing's a little wiggly, but here's the knot. I'm going to cut up just a couple inches, I don't know, 3 inches above it, just to give myself some extra room. And let's see. And this is such a, you know, crude chopping. Giving myself some extra room will help me when I go to smooth down the tips and stuff. You always want to give yourself some extra room, extra length. I'm keeping that. You guys could see that just broke. Now I have to improvise. Alright. Well, that serves me right. That was a piece of hickory, actually. It's amazing that it broke, but it was half rotted hickory, actually. It was something I cut down for firewood, and this was just a branch that was thrown and left outside to cure, so it's half rotted. I have a little hand axe that I keep in my kit, so I'm gonna have to probably use this to finish. I mean, that's encouraging though. It means this stuff's pretty hard, I guess, you know? So we'll see. If this is gonna be a bear, I might just rethink this. I think that's pretty funny. Alright, I gotta pad my hand and see where it takes us. Alright, so I've been chopping for about 5 minutes. And I had gone pretty deep with that adze, but it's getting a little bit deeper. And I don't really recommend ever snapping it off. I mean, you could run a split down, but I never listen to my own advice. Yeah, I'll chop it a little bit more. And this stuff's pretty hard, so that's a good sign. Well, I guess I can make another video on making a new axe. One that's stronger than the board that I'm chopping. Just going really slow. I really don't recommend this, but I gave myself extra room too, so I think we'll be alright, because I gotta shave this down all the way to make a tip. This sounds nice and hard, but you never know. I'm dealing with such a small stave, you never know what'll happen. So. Alright, step one. Alright, so this bark is really hard. I was trying to pick at it and I can't really pick it off. So I have a piece of quartzite here that I pick up along the river, and it's smashed off and it has kind of an edge. And I'm just going to really carefully try to shave this bark off and try not to nick my back or cut into any of the wood fibers while doing this. But it's definitely taking it off. I mean, I just gotta watch I don't catch any knots like I just did almost there, and not to really violate the bow in any way. I just want to remove the bark. So I'll try a combination of this, and if I come up with something else I'll get back with you. But some of this I'm hoping I could. Yeah, it's really hard on here, so I'll just do this a lot off camera and be back with you. That little quartzite planer thing is working pretty nicely to get the bulk of the bark off. Now I'm just going with this little kind of like spoke shape thing and just cleaning up some of this bark. Just the real fine inner bark that's left. I mean, this isn't super crucial at this point. I can clean this up at any time, but this is working really nicely. Get the last little bit. That bark off. And this limb's pretty much done. Got a little bit more, then I'll work on the other limb, but just wanted to show you that this is working really nice for getting that little bit that I couldn't get with the stone. Alright, so hopefully you can see this. I'll show you a little close-up of what's going on. This is kind of like a little flint flake pitched in a little handle here. It's working nice for just cleaning up a little bit of this bark, and I had hoped I could use a tool like this to kind of go deeper and start working the wood when I get to that, and I might be able to, but right now it's working good for taking the bark off. And this is kind of silly because, you know, if I would have timed it right, I probably could have stripped most of this bark off by hand when it wasn't totally adhered to this bow while it was still a little green. But I didn't, so now it's just a little harder to get off. Alright, so I'm finally starting to get lucky here. And on this end I was able to get under and run a couple strips. We could see that, so I might be able to start peeling some of this bark off, which would be a little bit more ideal. You don't run the risk of damaging your back by scraping it with any tools. You could just strip it. And should mention I'm doing this bow kind of as a trial run because I want to eventually, the long-term plan is to, you know, make a hunting quality stick bow with stone tools and, you know, and actually hunt with it. So I thought this would be a good test run of how the tools will perform, and, you know, I could see what I might need to work on or might need to, you know, adapt a little bit. But so far, I mean, these tools have been working pretty good. I wanted my little antler wedge so I could kind of get up underneath this bark and kind of strip it a little better. But so yeah, that's what I was hoping for right there. Just strip it right down, just like that. Pretty tough bark. Make some cordage out of that. Yeah, that's really tough stuff. Feels very leathery. Huh. Pretty neat. Yeah, I got some nice long strips off it now. I have to recycle this, I think. But yeah, if you could strip it, man, save yourself a lot of work and time, because I'll just run it right down there. Wow, that was from tip to tip. So we should be really moving now. I'll probably strip the rest of this and call it good for today. And next time I'll probably start laying this bow out and giving it a rough shape. Alright, so I finally broke down and got a little piece of bone. Just pulled it out of my bag and snapped the end off, and use that to get up underneath the bark and get it started, and then open it up and can run with it. Just easier than using your fingernail. See that? That's right up underneath there. Just like that. Alright, so I'm basically done. Stripped all the bark. There's a few little strands on here I can get off at any time. Last step, I'm just going to kind of process this bark, and I'll be out of here.